what we see here is a stone hoe, which is a farming implement, and you can see by notches on both sides that were made by humans for the purpose of hafting into a wooden handle. And if you look down toward the end, the working part, it's called a bit. And you can see polish, and that's usually from use where digging in this particular situation. These farming implements were manufactured by pecking and grinding hard stone to form the shape. This is a grooved axe, and it was manufactured by the ancients for working wood during the early Archaic period. The early Archaic period is sometimes viewed as a transitional period from the first occupants of North America around 20,000 years ago to a more settled time. The groove at the base is where the axe was hafted to a wooden handle. The blunt end at the opposite side of the axe was used as a sledgehammer. Now this is a variation of the grooved axe, which appears much cruder. This artifact was found in Keweenaw County in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Based upon the location found, it was probably used as a hammerstone to mine copper and shape the copper. The most conclusive evidence suggests that native copper was utilized to produce a wide variety of tools beginning in the Middle Archaic or earlier. One of the most frequently found copper tools in the Great Lakes region is the copper spear point. With most hardstone tools, they were formed by a process known as pecking and grinding. Pecking and grinding is the process of repeatedly striking the stone, which creates a softer surface that can be formed by grinding with another stone, and often they're polished with sandstone. You may find a wide variation of these woodworking tools. Many are much cruder than others. Now, the groove axe appeared during the Archaic period. However, there are no known examples of these types of axes or woodworking artifacts before this period. Certainly, the ancients manufactured woodworking tools well before the Archaic period. For example, the Paleo or pre-Clovis era of occupation. Ancient paleo cultures manufactured tools as they needed them and discarded them after use. They didn't travel carrying heavy stone tools. Generally speaking, though, archaeologists and academics have a problem with tools that don't conform to the standard textbook stone tool definitions. When they see variation, they dismiss the possibility of them being artifacts. Again, the ancient paleo cultures were very nomadic and made tools as they needed them. Now, with the stone tools, we see a lot of variation. Now, the variation is attributed to the technology of the time period and the types of raw materials available in one's geographical area and the skill and age of the person manufacturing these tools. This particular item is an example of a tool that was created by man. Now, if you evaluate this rock, you'll see a sharpened bit at the end at the defined working angle. Again, keep in mind that not all tools fit the textbook definition assigned by archaeologists. This tool is a Kelt. It was recovered from a farm field with obvious plow damage. Like grooved axes, this type of celt was manufactured during the Archaic period. However, Celts eventually replaced the grooved axe. They have a tapered, sharpened bit at the end of the tool. Oftentimes it appears polished, which was attributed to use wear. Celts, like grooved axes, were designed for cutting and working wood. The difference is they don't have the groove like the grooved axe, and generally they're thinner and much lighter in weight. Grooved axes and Celts were generally made of hard stone. Through the archaeological record, you'll see that some were manufactured from flint, chert, quartz, or obsidian, or other hard stones. Ones made of flint or chert required a different method. These were made by pressure flaking, the same method you see employed in the manufacture of flint or chert projectile points. The raw materials used really depends on what type of resources they had available and what the specific needs of the tool would have been. Now the adze is basically a variation of the Celt. However, the adze is hafted with the bevel side facing up. Now when we see these precise notches and angles, and they're found at archaeological sites, it supports the idea they were man-made tools. Woodworking tools were extremely popular in the Great Lakes region, with the abundance of water and the need for water vessels like canoes. When at ancient occupied sites, it's typical to find scrapers. Scrapers were generally used for cutting and removing meat from hides and/or bone. This particular scraper was commonly referred to as a turtleback scraper. You can see how it was manufactured using the pressure flaking method. The artifact does in fact resemble a turtle shell, hence the name. Now there are a variety of stones used to create the scraper. Typically flint, chert, obsidian, quartz were probably the most functional type of stone based upon the sharp edges that are produced after striking with another rock and working the edges. Now take a look at this particular artifact. It appears to resemble a billet. Typically, the billet was an ancient tool made from an antler, generally deer, antelope, or elk. Now the billet was used specifically on the edge of a tool when creating the sharp edges. We can see how it was designed and the fact that it's not or was not a creation of nature. And it was found in an archaeological site at layers that contained other artifacts. Sometimes with artifacts, we can only hypothesize what their purpose was in terms of functional use. Occasionally, you may come across a larger stone that's been obviously modified. The worked edges are the source of truth. This particular piece was probably used as a chopping tool. Now, chopping tools were generally thought to have been used for cutting wood and/or breaking bones of large animals to remove meat or marrow. During the Paleo period, mammoths and mastodons were plentiful in the Great Lakes region. They were probably a primary food source. This chopper would have been useful for these bigger jobs. This particular item is a very small pestle. It was found on the banks of the Grand River in West Michigan. Pestles were used for grinding nuts and seeds. This small pestle features design work and a specific taper. At the larger part of the tapered end, the base is concave, which shows use from the grinding process. At the same location in strata a larger yet more crude pestle was found. It has the same general design, and when examining the base, it displays the same type of use wear. You can see that same concave impression that was ground away from use. These larger pestles were probably used to grind corn, beans, or other food items like acorns. So again, there is a wide diversity in tools, and claiming they're just rocks is absolutely ignorant. Different cultures made different tools, and the skill set of tool makers varied, just like today. Now, some of these larger stones range from oval to completely round. Now, it's a mystery what they are, but they're found frequently at archaeological sites. They could be grinding or hammer stones. As you see on this particular rock, there is evidence of use wear around the edges. However, at this point, we can only speculate the use. They may have been game balls or rocks used to help in the process of cooking meat before the introduction of pottery. This rock, with the ground hole, is a commonly found artifact at archaeological sites. I've seen very few references in literature to what these may be, but many believe them to be tinder carriers designed for carrying hot coals from one location to another. An indication that you may have an artifact are the alternating notches carved on both sides of a stone. In the Great Lakes region, these particular stones were used as net weights and can be found in various sizes and weight. Another stone with a more shallow hole or indentation on the flat side are sometimes referred to as nutting stones. This type of stone may have served as a base for nut or seed grinding. These may be multifunctional and also have been used as a firestone. It is hypothesized they were used with a spindle in order to make a fire, or the stone may have been applied to the top or the bottom of the stick. Also, it could have been used for grinding nuts and seeds. The first people of the Great Lakes region hunted big game with spears thrusted by the Atlatl. This modified stone tool found in Ottawa County appears to be an Atlatl hook. The Atlatl hook was often made from bone or rock and shaped to a point used to stabilize a spear for thrusting. At the same location these items were found, both of these rocks have a well-defined cut made in the material. This suggests they were both designed as Atlatl weights. Now the shaft of the Atlatl had a weight tied to the base to help stabilize and balance the spear. It has also been theorized that banner stones and or bird stones were used on the Atlatl to balance the shaft. It's not 100% clear, however, this is the current working hypothesis. Both banner stones and bird stones are rare, and these artifacts are extremely valuable. Now, banner stones and bird stones are generally found in the same geographical area, the eastern woodlands, with more concentrated in the northeast portion of the United States and the southeast portion of Canada. A projectile point or dart was fixed at the end of the Atlatl used to penetrate the skin and organs of prey. If you look at this particular point, it's called a meadowwoods projectile point. This is a late Archaic or early woodlands type of projectile point and probably was used on the end of the Atlatl. Now, thousands of years prior to the meadowwoods projectile point, larger and thicker points were made. For example, this is a Thebes point. This was found in southeast Michigan and was manufactured during the early Archaic period, probably 9,000 to 10,000 years ago. It may have been attached to an Atlatl, however, it's likely it was made as a knife blade due to the larger size and weight. Now, there's really countless varieties of projectile points found all over North America, representing different technologies and different time periods. Many were made of flint and chert. However, projectile points were made from different materials other than flint or chert. Many were manufactured from quartz, quartzite, obsidian, rhyolite, and even slate. Also, projectile points were made from bone, horn, and even sharpened wood. There's a very limited amount of quality chert in Michigan. A common chert used in this state is Bayport chert, but most quality chert was acquired via trade. Many points are made of alternative materials in areas that lack knappable stone. Native copper is a malleable metal that was used in northern Michigan for making projectile points and/or other tools. There are many copper tools used in this area, especially as you get into the western Upper Peninsula. This is where the infamous copper culture existed, and this occurred 5,000 to 8,000 years ago. Upper Peninsula copper can be up to 99% pure, and the unique thing about Michigan copper is it is found in Ohio, Kentucky, and south to Mississippi and Alabama, and frequently found associated with ancient Hopewell mound builder cultures, mounds similar to the Norton Mounds located in Kent County, Michigan. You may also notice the majority of actual true arrowheads are found south of Michigan and in abundance by the Mississippi River, the southeastern United States. And you'll also notice when you watch the arrowhead hunting videos on YouTube, it seems all these arrowhead hunters finding arrowheads basically everywhere they look, and they all ironically have the same southern accent.
Matthew said, "Man, we hadn't been in here 5 minutes. We just walked away from the truck. He said he's got a point unless his eyes are playing tricks on him." 10 or 8 feet, say about that? Yeah. Heck yeah.
So that whole geographical area was and still is very rich in chert, unlike most of Michigan. The go-to artifact when people think about Native Americans is always the arrowhead. However, the bow and arrow didn't arrive in Michigan until approximately 1,200 years ago. Most of the points found are not actual arrowheads. They're most likely Atlatl darts, spear points, or knife blades. Arrowheads by nature are generally much smaller and lighter than other projectile points, as they are attached to the end of a shaft and shot with a bow, so they have to be light. They were used for smaller game like birds, rabbits, and deer. And finally, though not technically a tool, one can find clay pottery shards. Now, pottery production began in the late Archaic and early woodland period in the Great Lakes region. Now, this pottery shard was found on the banks of Sand Creek in Ottawa County, Michigan, and represents the earliest form of pottery made in Michigan. It's a corded type of pottery, and it's extremely thick with crushed shell material embedded in the fired clay. As the use of pottery evolved, the designs became much thinner. Artifacts are plentiful and not rare. Ancient people inhabited Michigan since the retreat of the glaciers 12 to 13,000 years ago. However, they're generally buried very deep in the earth and only found where the earth was disturbed through erosion, farming practices, or as a result of digging equipment at construction sites. They can also be found washed up in rivers, creeks, streams, and any other body of water. Occasionally, though, you may get lucky and find them on the surface. One key is to look for debitage, or the leftover flakes, from the tool manufacturing process. So if you stumble across an area with stone flakes on the ground, there's a possibility that was a site occupied by ancient people. Generally, it's illegal to pick up artifacts unless you're on private property with permission from the owner, or you're fortunate, like me, to live on property that was once occupied by ancient people. Always be respectful of any ancient cultures. And a final word: to assert you know everything about ancient cultures because you studied archaeology or you read some books, that is simply a fallacy. There are many examples of artifacts that exist which are denied by archaeologists. Archaeology requires intense study of existing literature and the combination of searching fields, walking in streams, exploring sites where the earth was disturbed, and the relentless study of objects found. So debate me all you want, that's fine, but open your mind, open your eyes, learn, grow, and explore.